on here. This lick is in G minor, it's only pentatonic, and we're using a lot of string skipping as well as 3-note per string alternate picking type sequences. So I'm gonna play through one slowly, and then I'm gonna explain it a bit better. Still gonna be a bit quick here, but if you need tabs, you have details on how to get them down in the description box. So starting here on the 12th fret of the G string. So the first shape here that I'm using is this one, which is basically 10, 13, 15 on the A string, and then you have 10, 12, 15 on the G string. So we skip the D string completely. And I'm starting on the root note here on the G string, and I basically just pick it with a downstroke and do that. So pick, hammer, pull off, and then from here I'm gonna alternate pick everything. Starting with a downstroke on this note. So it's gonna go like this. And from here, I'm gonna move up, so I have my index finger here on the 12th fret. Now we get the same shape 1 octave higher between the G and the E string. And because of the B string, we need to compensate and move 1 extra fret up. But other than that, it's exactly the same notes. And the actual fingering on each string will be the same. So the low string here, A, will have 1, 3, 4, and then we have 1, 2, 4. Same thing here, 1, 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 4 on the high E string. So. And from here, I'm moving up again in the same way. So if you had more strings on your guitar, you could basically keep this going until you run out of strings, but I'm already out of strings here, and I think you probably is as well. So we're just gonna start the next sequence from this note, but the fingering will be the same, right? So just to play, I'm gonna play it again so it's not as confusing. So from here, I'm gonna play this sequence. So why I paused in between here is that's because that's the way I see the sequence going down the fretboard. So we basically have a 10-note sequence here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have the key Marcello sequence that I showed in the last video. But then we connect this ascending and descending pattern on the high E string. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we connect that with the key Marcello sequence. And if you haven't seen that video, go check that out. But I'm gonna run the sequence really quickly here. It's just 3 notes on the same fingering, but instead of going over there, we get a double note. I'm gonna go straight to the middle note. And from here, I'm gonna go, and I kind of view these as you can see it as 1, 2, 3. So in terms of the lowest note on the string would be 1, and then the next second and the third. So it has nothing to do with the fingering, but the sequence then would be 1, 2, 3, 2, 1 on the first string, and then we have 2, 1, 3, 2, 1 on the next string. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, and then the next string start on 2, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. And now we're gonna move that down to this note and do exactly the same thing, just making sure that we follow the G minor pentatonic scale here. So move it again, down again. So here at the end, I end on, because that's the root note of the key. So from the top again. So everything put together slowly again. So something like that. Basically, just take it super easy when you learn this at first, but really understand the lick first, because then it's way less notes you need to remember if you can see the sequence. And also, when it comes to practicing this, you're way better off working on a smaller part. So you can go, or even that far. And continue putting them together in the same way. And I like to use a timer and chuck it on 5 minutes. I actually use a physical timer like this. And then I just chuck it on and counts down. And I can repeat a small phrase for 5 minutes. And 5 minutes, there's no magic to it. It's just long enough for you to get enough reps to see some improvement, but also it's short enough for you not to feel like you're making this massive time investment in one thing. And that could lead to you being like very hesitant about what to practice. Because if you're gonna practice for 5 minutes, you're like, fine, whatever. But if you're gonna do it for like 15 minutes, it's quite a time investment, and then you might be a bit more picky when it comes to what to practice. This 5-minute method thing is something that I'm going to talk more about in future videos as well, because I think it's a really helpful thing when practicing pretty much anything actually. But try that if you haven't done it before, because if nothing else, it's going to help you to relax a bit more, because then for the next 5 minutes, the only thing that exists is whatever you decided to work on. So if you decided to work on, okay, I'm just going to do this thing, just do that for 5 minutes. And you can apply all kinds of practice tools as well that I've shared here on the channel before, like accents, different rhythmic subdivisions, the whole long, short, short, long rhythmic variations thing. And there's a lot of stuff you can apply to these 5-minute periods. So it's not about just sitting there repeating everything at a steady pace, even though that's also fine. But I think you can get a lot out of it if you start applying these different practice techniques as well, and the time will pass quicker. So if you haven't tried this before, do try it, because I really feel it makes it easier to find a bit more serenity, for lack of a better term, when you practice. So you don't feel like, yeah, but I want to practice this and this and this and this. Then you can be like, well, everything has its time. I'm going to do this for 5 minutes now, and then move on. So give that a try and see if it works for you. Right, so that's it for this lesson. If you have any questions, just post them below. Otherwise, have a great weekend and see you in the next video.